Hello, everybody. We welcome you. Today is Thursday. Now, why might that be important?
Because the election, the 2024 election, was 2 days ago on Tuesday, and we found out who's going to be president on Wednesday.
And a lot of us have powerful feelings on that, and that's what we're going to try to give you some help with right now. It's a sad day for half of America, whoever won. We've been divided by hatred in this country. So the Republicans and the Democrats are just at horrible odds with each other. And if Harris had won, 80 million Americans who were strong supporters of Trump would be crushed and devastated. And
angry.
And angry, yeah. And then since Trump won, 70, 80 million Democrats or liberals or independents or whatever are equally devastated and angry and sad and upset. And we wanted to try to give you some words of warmth or support today. And our goal is not to make any kind of political message, but to give some words of comfort to anyone who's hurting because of the because maybe your candidate lost and you've had very powerful feelings about it.
And I know a lot of people who have and been really upset and disappointed, and so it'll be fun to show some team in the context of political change and turmoil.
Yeah, TEAM-CBT. And I'm not sure we have any particular fantastic words of wisdom here, but Jeremy's been feeling upset and recorded his negative feelings and negative thoughts, and we can take a look at those in a minute. But the first thing I wanted to say is, if you're out there and you're feeling overwhelmed today, disappointed, sad, down, anxious, panicky, worried, bitterly disappointed, alone, lonely, abandoned, angry, frustrated, whatever, I'm sad for everyone who's feeling kind of blown out of the water today and devastated today. And there's a difference between healthy negative feelings and unhealthy negative feelings. And it would certainly be healthy and appropriate, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat and your candidate lost, to have all kinds of feelings of anger and disappointment and depression and sadness. And those would be healthy negative feelings. And then the idea of life is not to be happy all the time because we get what we want, and sometimes we don't get what we want, and it's totally natural and inevitable to be feeling down. And so give yourself permission to be feeling down and to be grieving for a period of time. It might not make the situation more bearable for you, but at least you won't be beating yourself up for the way you feel.
Yeah, sometimes I tell myself I'm going to have a day to mope.
Yeah.
And that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I'll mope today and get on with life tomorrow.
That's right. And then another thing that might be helpful for you is the tool that we use called positive reframing. And that's to say, what do your negative thoughts and feelings show about you that's positive and awesome? So maybe you can take some pride in feeling down and angry and disappointed and upset. And that's another thing that I can offer you.
What does it show about you that's good, that you're upset, that your candidate lost?
Yeah.
It might show that you're in a way, very patriotic, that you're really concerned about the country. And
yeah. And
a lot of good things about you.
So let's look at some of your negative feelings today.
Yeah. Well, and maybe just to introduce myself really quick.
Who are you?
I actually don't know.
Saw you walking around outside.
Yeah.
So we're making videos. Come on in and you can.
Well, I'm David's collaborator on the Feeling Great app. I'm Jeremy. And I work with David on the Feeling Great app. I'm his co-founder on that, and proud to be working on that. And before I get started reading off my negative thoughts and feelings, I just want to mention I hope we have people who are extreme liberals and extreme Republicans watching this. I think I grew up, and one of my favorite people in the world was my uncle Phil, who was a strong Republican. And we're in a kind of divided time, but then when I actually started to write down my negative thoughts and feelings, I thought, wow, this is actually pretty cool, because the thoughts and feelings that I'm having now and what we'll talk about are probably exactly what people who strongly supported Trump 4 years ago were thinking and telling themselves. And so maybe this video can be a little bit of an opportunity to bring people together, as well as an opportunity for people to learn some cool techniques to challenge and negative thoughts and do the positive reframing that David was talking about.
Before we go on, who is Phil? You mentioned
Phil's my uncle.
But what is it about Phil?
Oh, sorry, I didn't do a good job at explaining that. Phil's my uncle, who was my favorite uncle growing up, and he was just a wonderful guy and a strong Republican. And so I was just wanted to mention that I've always had people of different political persuasions in my life.
Yeah. And I grew up too in a very conservative situation in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I used to give speeches and talks on, democracy and the Constitution and stuff. And in 1960, Barry Goldwater, who was a congressman, got the Freedoms Foundation Award from the Freedoms Foundation in Valley Forge. He's one of two Arizona citizens to get that award, and I was the other one. and I had an appointment.
He was a really strong conservative.
Yeah, he's a real strong conservative, and I was too. And I got an appointment to the Air Force Academy and the Naval Academy. I ended up going to Amherst College instead. But I'm very familiar with the whole conservative
mentality and perspective.
That's right.
Yeah. So maybe I'll share some of the negative thoughts that I wrote down. And I'm actually feeling pretty good today, but yesterday, after I sort of got a chance to really understand and process the news, I was feeling 70% anxious and worried, 80% hopeless and discouraged, 70% frustrated and angry, and 60% sad and down. And I can imagine people all across the country were feeling that way. Harris supporters were, and probably very similar to how Trump supporters were feeling 4 years ago. And then my negative thoughts were, the country's doomed. People shouldn't have voted for Trump. RFK will screw up the country's health. I might have to move. And then I also had this thought, and I think I've talked to a lot of people who've had this thought, I'm going to spend the next 4 years worrying all the time and being consumed by the news media.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
How many of you, put your hands up, can have experienced those things since yesterday? Okay, I see half the hands going up. And then how many of you have felt those things 4 years ago when Trump did not win and felt incredible anger and disappointment? Oh, I see the other 50%. So that's something we can kind of all identify.
So there was another 50% that doesn't care. That didn't care either time.
Right. And they're not out there because they're still in the cave. The hermits. But now, before we go on to some of the techniques to zap these negative thoughts, and I'm sorry that you're feeling this way, and I've been feeling this way, and my wife's been feeling this way, and a whole lot of us in our family system, because we're all in the kind of the liberal mindset, more or less. But before we try to make these feelings go away or reduce their impact, what do they say about you and your value system that's positive and awesome, and how might they be helpful to you? What do they show about you that's really positive and beautiful?
Yeah, and that's such a great question, David, and it's something that when I started to kind of get worked up about the news, I sort of struggled to say, well, how could this be good to be so upset about news? It just seems like a bad thing.
Yeah.
And then I actually thought more about it, and I actually realized that it really kind of comes out of my love for this country.
Yeah.
My family story is that a lot of my ancestors came to the United States fleeing persecution. They were Jews. The story I remember most clearly is my great grandmother Helen. She was living in what's now modern day Ukraine, and her towns all around where she was living were being burned down.
Wow.
And so Helen fled. She left and she walked. She hiked 200 miles with her. She was 12 and her sister was 7, and they hiked 200 miles together with almost nothing to get to a port. And then to get to America to secure passage, she agreed to be a mail order bride, essentially, of someone in Brooklyn, who's my great grandfather. And so they left really hard circumstances to come here. And to be honest, this country's been amazing to my family. It's not perfect for everyone, and it's not been perfect for my family, but people in my family who came from very little did great financially and became lawyers and business people and professors and secured good jobs and raised wonderful families and had a lot of rights and freedoms and had safety and security from all the Jewish persecution they had experienced in Europe. And so even though initially I really was like, why is this a good thing to feel so upset? I think kind of these negative feelings show how much I care about a country that's given me a lot. And it shows my patriotism, my gratitude, my appreciation for important values like respecting people from different religions and caring about, the treatment of minorities and all kinds of things that are really positive and that I don't want to change.
Yeah.
And so not caring at all about the election would be oh yeah, my grandfather went to fight in World War II and I saw a video interview with him and he was talking about how important democracy was and that's why he signed up underage to fight in World War II. And then feeling like, well, if I didn't care about our democracy here, it'd kind of be like betraying him. And
Yeah. So let me see if I've got the list right. That's your uncle, did you say? Or
that was who fought in World War II. That was my grandfather on my mom's side, my mother's father, George.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're saying that all these negative thoughts and feelings actually show these positives about you, how much you care for America, how patriotic you are, how much gratitude you have for America and what it's meant to your family, your ancestors, and
myself. Life's been pretty good here for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shows your respect for other people. It shows that your respect for the treatment of minorities, that you were in a minority, and then you found a wonderful life. Instead of a life of persecution, and shows that you're loyal to your grandfather who fought for America in World War II.
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you? What is to come up with that list?
I guess it means a lot. Like I kind of want to care about this place. I want to see that the values that I have and the kind of continue on and don't get swept away in some fervor for something different.
Right. And so if we had a magic button and all your negative thoughts and feelings would magically disappear and you'd go into a state of euphoria, would you press that button?
I don't think so.
Yeah. A little tearful right now. I had some Kleenex.
I found them. Yeah.
It's a really beautiful thing to see your tears, and now what we can do, if you like, see the first point is to accept the way you're thinking and feeling, and then once you're no longer ashamed of your feelings or in battling with your feelings, it sometimes becomes much easier to modify them. And let me just have this for a minute. let's say we tone these feelings down a bit, but
Yeah,
kept them
let's do it.
elevated. How much anxiety would you want to feel? It was 70.
Oh, anxiety. I don't think that's a very helpful one. Maybe like 10.
10. And how hopeless and discouraged do you want to feel?
I don't think it's all that useful feeling hopeless and discouraged. Maybe like a 5.
5. How frustrated and angry?
I'll kind of stick with like a 20.
20. And how sad and down?
I'm kind of okay having a period of mourning, so maybe like a 20.
Is that enough?
Maybe like a 30.
30, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give myself a little mopey period of mopage.
And that's called the magic dial, and the idea when you're upset, whether it's about politics or just your own chronic negative thoughts, the goal is to turn them down a little bit, not to magically make them disappear, because there's beautiful value in these negative thoughts and feelings. As we've just seen, these shows some of the most beautiful part of you as a man, as a human being. And now let's see. Let's just jump to externalization of voices.
Sure, yeah.
And in this is just one of the many techniques I've developed. But I'm going to play the negative Jeremy, and you're play the positive Jeremy, and I'm going to try to upset Jeremy by hitting him with his negative thoughts, and then you can try to defeat me using one of 3 strategies: the acceptance paradox, where you find some truth in the thought; the self-defense, where you argue that the thought is just not true, it's distorted, it's illogical, it's misleading; and then also the counterattack technique, where you point out that the problem is not so much the realistic sadness of the election, but the way you're working yourself up with this voice in your head that's kind of making you miserable. Trump is not making you miserable, but your negative thoughts are making you miserable, and I will now be your negative thoughts.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, sure. Can I talk to you for a minute, Jeremy?
Yeah, let's go.
You know, I'm of course the negative Jeremy, and I'll talk to you in the second person you, but I'm just you talking to you, and I want you to know that the country is now doomed.
Oh, and when you say the country is doomed, what specifically are you meaning?
Well, democracy will disappear. People will be put in concentration camps like in World War II, and the right to vote will disappear. There will be persecution of people who aren't thinking in the so-called correct way.
Yeah.
And the television stations will disappear. The news will be controlled by the government, and people will be imprisoned because of their political views.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if all of that or some of that or any of that will happen. I know I was talking to my dad, who's like pretty knowledgeable about history because he's a history professor. And he says a lot of countries kind of go back and forth in times like this, and some things sometimes like rights go a certain way and then get built back up. And I don't really know all of what's going to happen. I think everything in life is temporary, and even America is probably temporary to some degree, no matter who gets in charge this cycle. And it would be real sad, I think, if a lot of the rights that people worked really hard to get were lost. I think that would be, a tragedy, and a lot of people would suffer from that. But I don't know yet what's going to happen. I think it's really unpredictable how things play out, and it's very surprising we're here with Trump becoming president in 2024. I don't think anyone would have guessed that in 2012, and we could be equally surprised in 12 more years.
Okay, so who won?
I would give myself a B plus A minus kind of level. Would you want to flip it around?
I was hoping you'd say you won huge, so I wouldn't have to. I'm willing to give it a try.
Okay. All right. So Jeremy, the country is doomed.
Well, that seems pretty extreme, kind of all or nothing thinking and magnification and emotional reasoning and hidden shoulds and all the rest of it. It's certainly the country isn't going in the direction that I would want at this point, and I think that errors are going to be made, and there may be some considerable suffering because of that. I don't know that.
Yeah.
But I also think that life goes on. We've had periods throughout history
Yeah.
where we're in the Dark Ages, and then suddenly there was the Renaissance, and our America things switch from, liberal to conservative, and the pendulum swings back and forth. And I suspect that pendulum will swing back and forth, will continue to. But at the moment, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't predict the future. But I do know that my big problem is not that Trump won the election. I have another problem.
And what's that?
Listening to your bullshit, constantly alarming me and trying to make me angry and anxious. And I have a lot to live for, and I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing and to believe in what I'm doing and to help where I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's about all I have to say.
Oh, that was good. Okay, I think I'm ready to try again.
Okay.
All right.
Jeremy, I want you to know, and you can't, argue with me on this, because in your heart of hearts it's true. The country is doomed. Face it.
Well, actually, I think there's no way to know that. In fact, the one thing we can be sure of is we pretty much have no idea what the future is going to be like. It's going to be very different from what any of us imagine. But there could be some real setbacks and things that I really wouldn't want to have happened. And that's how humans have lived the entire time there's been a human race. Is there's been political change and instability, and things happen that you don't want to have happen, and you got to go with the flow. But even if the country changes in a way I don't like, I can still have a great life. I can work on things that are important to me. I have wonderful friends, and the only thing I know for sure that's going to be a big negative is telling myself over and over again, the country's doomed because my preferred political candidate didn't win. I know if I give myself that message again and again and again, that's just going to be very demoralizing and paralyzing and not fun.
Great. Who won?
I would say I crushed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Now, how did you crush it for the people who are watching? Because they may not get it. They may see that suddenly some power came into you.
Yeah.
But what was the principle? How did you do that?
I think there were a couple things. I think the most important was focusing on the realization that it's not really so much what happens with the country and what will happen that's upsetting. It's just giving yourself this negative message over and over again. The counterattack technique dimension of it, just making a decision, knowing that the future is uncertain. Do I want to keep on telling myself and focusing on this, right? Or do I want to direct my attention and energies other things?
I love
things that I can control.
I love what you're saying. Have you ever heard of Epictetus?
Yeah.
It's hard when things don't go our way to see the truth,
which happens frequently.
Yeah, but we're not disturbed by events, but by our thoughts about them. And that was you brought that to life really beautifully. Well,
and one other dimension, I think the other thing was, this is a powerful fortune-telling thought. You're making all these assumptions about how the future is going to evolve. And it really is just bullshit, the idea that we can predict the future.
Yeah,
look where we are today. It's totally unpredictable. Look what we're dealing with COVID 4 years ago. That was totally unpredictable. All these things that happen are very surprising. And that's the only thing you can count on is the future is probably going to be very surprising.
And are you saying that negative things aren't going to happen?
No, definitely negative things will happen.
Yeah.
But they're probably not the ones we think. And when you have a thought like that, you're discounting all the surprise positive things that are going to happen.
Right. Okay, well, you beat me on that one, but I have another one for you. And when you've got negative thoughts that you've written down, it's important to blow all of them out of the water if you want to get really profound improvement in your feelings. And we'll make this kind of fast because you've been patient to watch, but hopefully it's relevant to you and a lot of maybe some learning for you too.
And if you don't like what we're saying and you're a strong Trump supporter who hates me, I live in Massachusetts, and that's where you should look for me.
Yeah, right. Okay. Now, people shouldn't have voted for Trump, and there's no way you can talk back to that one. They just should not have bought what he was saying and voted for him.
Well, that's just BS, because clearly he's got a tremendous amount of appeal. He's not appealing to me. He's not appealing to a whole lot of my immediate friends, but his people like business people. People are really upset with Washington and they want change and they see him as an agent of change. And there's all kinds of stuff that people like about him. And humans are humans; they like what they like. Being
And
like
he's down to earth. And he's transparent. He says, what do you think?
in a certain way, yeah,
And a lot of them said that Harris was kind of a wimpy phony.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to say that about her, but she does have this mild, politically correct, sweet thing.
Right.
And he just kind of tells it like it is.
Yeah.
And isn't that appealing to a lot of people?
Yeah. Yeah.
So who won that one?
I think I won it, but huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, how did you do it? That was a should statement.
Yeah. So I think they're a more, instead of thinking people shouldn't have voted for Trump, it's more accurate to say people definitely should have voted for Trump, because of course they're going to think that different people are going to find different things appealing, and a lot of people are going to find what he has to offer appealing.
Yeah.
And
we may
it's
not like it.
we may not like it, but it's a natural human instinct. It's
Yeah.
like being like angry that people don't like the same religion you like, or people don't like the same food you
that
like.
Cats chase mice.
Right.
They like to.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You killed it on that one. Only 3 more to go. RFK will screw up the country's health. I think there's some talk he might be the health commissioner or secretary of health.
And might pull back on vaccines and take out fluoride from the water. And there could be some other things. And I think, that's there's some truth in this thought, because there might be things he does that I would say wouldn't be good. But on the other hand, in a democracy, the people kind of get what they want. And if a bunch of people want to make changes to our health system that don't make sense to me, if that, I can still protect my health by doing things that are right for me. Right. I can, if I need fluoridation, I can get fluoride. And if I want vaccines, I probably will be able to obtain them. And if that's not what the people of this country want, then the people are going to have to live with the consequences.
Go for it.
Yeah.
That's the American way.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Who won that one?
Yeah. Plus, it's also fortune telling. I don't know. Trump changes his mind a lot. So tomorrow he could be on the outs with RFK and say, "Get out of here. I don't want to ever talk to you again." So who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So who won that?
I crushed that one.
Okay, but here's another one you're not going to be able to crush. You might have. There's only 2 to go, folks. You might have to move.
Well, that's true. It's possible I could move, but it's a pretty extreme idea. Like, I've got my life's set up pretty well here, and there's a lot of benefits to staying here, and I have a lot of protections, actually, as an American and as someone living in California. So even if the country changes in a way I don't like, going all the way to I'm going to have to leave the country is awfully extreme. And at the same time, if I did have to leave the country, maybe that would be an awesome thing. I know,
like your ancestors did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and I can walk to Vancouver.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. I was just talking to a guy who, because of the political situation in the country he was in, he went to Portugal, and he loves his life in Portugal, and he's got a wonderful life there. And I've been to, there's all kinds of beautiful, amazing places I've been. Maybe I'd end up enjoying life better. The Bay Area is really expensive. Could be fun.
Yeah. Who won?
I crushed that one.
Okay. Finally, and then we'll let you go. I'll waste a ton of time. Oh, this is an easy one. Worrying and being consumed by the news. And I bet you've got that. Oh, you're over there. Yes, I bet you've got that same concern. How are you going to talk back to that one, Jeremy?
Well, I probably will waste some time being consumed by the news, because that's a very natural thing to get worked up on news, and it's a specific vulnerability of mine. But if I end up feeling like I'm wasting too much time on news, I can easily change that pattern of behavior. I can delete the news apps from my phone. I can work on my tempting negative thoughts for my news addiction, which comes and goes. And worrying is kind of a decision we make to some degree. Do I want to be worrying about all this stuff I can't control constantly, or do I want to focus my attention
on the app?
On the app.
Feeling Great app, which might be helpful to you.
Yeah, if you're struggling, you should definitely get it if you're struggling with political anxiety. Where you can do what we're doing right now in the app. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I'll probably focus on, instead put my energies into the things that are rewarding in life and not waste a ton of time on that.
Okay, let's see how it worked. How anxious and worried are you at this moment?
About a 10.
10, okay. How hopeless and discouraged?
0.
0. How frustrated and angry?
Actually, like a 0.
0. How sad and down?
0.
Zero. And are those changes real, or are you just kind of saying what I want to hear?
Those changes are real. Yeah.
And then what caused those changes? And then we'll let you folks go. But
I think there were two huge components. One was the positive reframing, to appreciate that a lot of my negative feelings actually reflect good values that I don't want to change.
yeah,
And then another is like seeing how ridiculous all these negative thoughts are.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's our comment on political angst, and there were several points, just to summarize them for you, because it happened awful fast. And the first is that if you're feeling down and discouraged, you have every right to feel that way. Those feelings are normal, and you can allow yourself.
So we're telling people they shouldn't feel discouraged, right?
Yeah, you should feel happy and euphoric if your favorite opponent got smashed in the elections. No, it's perfectly normal and healthy to feel angry, to feel sad, to feel down, to feel frustrated, to feel discouraged. That's point number one. Point number two, and that we care for you, and both of you, if you're on the Republican or the Democratic side, you've had these feelings. We all have disappointments. Republicans had them 4 years ago. The Democrats have them now, and this makes us part of the human family.
And when the Republican candidate lost, they were probably telling themselves the country's doomed.
Yeah, right.
And the people shouldn't have voted for Biden. And,
Yeah, exactly. We hate Biden. How could anyone vote for him?
Right.
That type of thing. And then the next thing is if you ask yourself, what are these negative thoughts and feelings? Well, first write down your negative thoughts and feelings the way Jeremy did. It's just a piece of paper. We didn't even use my fancy daily mood log. We didn't have one here today, so just wrote it on a piece of paper. And it's about 5 inches high and 4 inches wide. That's about all the space it took.
Yeah.
And then write down, how anxious are you between 0 and 100? How depressed are you? Just record your feelings, how strong they are, and write down your negative thoughts. Now you're saying, I can do it in my head. No, you can't, dummy.
This is like the worst mistake.
That's the worst mistake.
You...
People have been making it since I developed these techniques 40 more years ago. Write it on paper. That's where the magic.
Or better get the app. You can do this all in the app. You can get a couple rides for free.
Oh yeah, on the app. Right.
And if you like it, you might decide to pay us for it, which would be greatly appreciated. And if you can't afford it, we'll send you a free subscription if you write into support.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to see what's positive, what these negative thoughts and feelings show about you that's positive and awesome. And we got quite a list of 2, 4, 6 things, and probably more if we spent more time. The benefits of your negative thoughts and feelings and what they show about you. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and can I make a quick comment on that part? Mm-hmm. I think it's so important. I think sometimes when people do the positives, they kind of do these generic things like, it shows I care a lot, but I think you really want to find specific real things, and look for the reality and maybe brainstorm it with a friend or, but you can't just be doing these generic BS-y things. Yeah. It shows I'm a fighter.
Yeah. You have to really see it. And your list was accurate. I mean, it's your heritage, the people you've loved to sacrifice to get out of the Nazi territories and make it to the United States.
It was an earlier generation of prejudiced people, but yeah.
Right. And then lastly, you can talk back to these negative thoughts, and we had to do a couple iterations at first until you killed it. And, just a lukewarm feeling a little better is not what we're aiming for, but to have dramatic
total crushing
changes. And your anxiety went from 70 to 10, your hopelessness went from 80 to 0, your anger and frustration went from 70 to 0, your sad down feelings went from 80, I think.
60.
60 to 0. So we hope this is helpful. We did the best job we could today. We didn't have a lot of time to prepare, but we know that the country's hurting half and rejoicing half, and hopefully this will give those of you who are hurting some tools and some encouragement that we're sad we're with you, and those of you who are rejoicing also to help feel a common bond, because we all feel these things, and you might have been feeling these things, 4 years ago, and we love all of you. We're trying to bring a message of hope and joy to everyone. So that's about it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.